Welcome back to the channel. I've got some vintage mint on cards that have sold recently on eBay, mainly from Gold Star Tech. I also had a nice lot of Ewoks and Droids mint on cards from Toy Scout, another seller that we see here regularly. I've got one ESB card, this budget-friendly Lando, that was a 31 back B. The rest of these are all kind of later Return of the Jedi, Palatoy Tri-Logos, Droids, Ewoks, Power of the Force, things like that. But trying to clear out my watch list. And for those of you that are maybe on a budget, you know, I do have some budget-friendly items in this auction lot that I wanted to kind of cover. This was a slightly yellowed 31 back B Lando. Obviously, lots of edge wear to the card, probably like a 70, 75-ish grade at most. A 75 grade. 155, great deal for a mint on card ESB early card back, and again, not grade worthy in my opinion, just one to slap inside of an acrylic case and move along with your life. He did have, he being Gold Star Tech, did have some really nice Tri-Logos that I wanted to show you. The first one is the Yoda. This is the brown snake Yoda. There are very limited numbers of the orange snake Yoda that you can find on Tri-Logos. They are tough to find. They usually do go for expensive money. Occasionally, though, you'll see somebody list one because they don't know that the orange snake Yoda is rare on the Tri-Logo, and then it'll sell for cheap. But usually they can go for a lot of money. But this was just the standard brown snake Yoda. It looked like it had a little bit, you know, of what waviness to the card, but you know, in general, pretty good shape. One little crease there by the hang tab. KB Toys, 2 for $1 price sticker on that. I think this one probably grades an 80. You know, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a 75. Yeah, I think because it's got that crease on the lower left-hand corner there that you can kind of see on the back. Color bricking crease there. That probably holds it back to a 75. And that's okay. You know, this one sold for $6.15, probably about market. You know, it's Tri-Logo Yodas, no matter which variant it is, they can be pretty pricey. And that's probably about a mid-grade 75-ish level example. And here's the Death Star droid. I was a little surprised that this one went as high as it did, given that it was ungraded. But in all fairness, it was a very clean example. The blister was in really great shape, as you can see there. And, you know, I didn't really see much wrong with it. I think this one probably grades an 80. One little ding or kind of crunch in the left-hand corner of the blister, but otherwise very clean. I think it gets an 80, 80, 85 for the subscores for an overall 80 grade. And that one sold for $9.41. Just as a reminder, I bought an AFA 85 at auction from CIB September 5th, actually. That's the last item I've ever bought was, in terms of my collection, was that Death Star droid Tri-Logo from CIB on September 5th. And I paid about $12.40 for that one. So, you know, this is probably about right, just given that it's a little bit lower grade, AFA 80-ish kind of quality. And I think this one is the German Parker, too. Let me see if I can get a better close-up of the back. Right there. So that looks like the brighter yellow German Parker card back, and the hang tab is also a little bit wider. So I think that's the German Parker version. So you can kind of see that there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a standard Palatoy 70D, but that one looks a little wider than usual. So $9.41 on that one. Some Return of the Jedi card backs. This was a 65 back B that Gold Star Tech had. This one looks to be a clear blister as well. Yeah, very clear blister there. And I thought this was a good deal at $168. You know, it's tough to find any Return of the Jedis with a clear blister still. And that one, you know, don't be fooled sometimes by the photos. You know, sometimes they don't show you the photos outside of the acrylic cases. They just kind of slap it on eBay. And sometimes they actually do break them out. But there's a lot of reflections in his videos. So they almost all have this kind of weird stuff that's going around the logo there. That's just reflections in the logo. And the great thing about this particular seller, again, I'm not sponsored by him or anything like that. I'm just a happy customer, is that they do allow for free returns. So returns 30 days, seller pays return shipping. So if you get one and you bid on it and you don't like the condition of it or you feel like it's misrepresented, they do offer free returns on it. So $168 again on that 65 back B Ugnaught. Here was a 77 back B with the Anakin offer. Yellowed blister for the R5D4. Punched example, 2 price stickers, US card, obviously. $355, pretty solid price there. And I can't remember which one I have for the Return of the Jedi. I've got a very slightly yellowed blister, R5D4, and it was around that same price, I think. If it's the one Dominic R., a Patreon supporter, gave it to me as a gift, but I sent it out as a Patreon buy it now alert, and I think he bought it for me and sent it to me, and then I graded it with CAS, and I think it came back a 75 plus, which is what I think what it was. But it was either this card, I forgot which one it was now, but I think it was a 77 back B, just like this. But this one was a little heavier yellowing to the blister on it. Probably still gets a yellowed 80, would be my guess on that. Maybe a 75 plus because of some tear on the back of the card there that you can see by the hang tab. But still, I feel like every Return of the Jedi R5D4 is expensive. Maybe it's just my imagination because it's a particular character that I want. But it does seem like that's the case anytime one comes up for sale, no matter which card back variation it is. Here's a 77A Boosh. You know, this one had some litho tears in the upper right, so that held the price down on that one. $145 was the final sales price there. Here was an AFA 75 77A Luke Bespin with the brown hair. I've got this one in an AFA 80 clear blister. This one obviously yellow blister. Unpunched example, $455. I thought that was a very appropriate, fair price there. I think I paid $600 for mine. That was an AFA 80 with the clear blister. But nice example there, very fair price. On to the Power of the Force. Here was a Barada, you know, probably mid-grade, 75-ish grade kind of quality. 202. I mean, that used to be what a loose, complete Barada would go for with the coin, you know, outside of the blister. Here was a Wicket that sold for $224. Similar situation. I don't know what it looks like. It's got a crease going all the way down the card. So this could have been like packed into like a multi-pack or just poorly stored. I don't know. There were some Wickets that I think either came in multi-packs or the Palatoy Tri-Logo Ewok Combat Assault, stuff like that, where they folded over these Power of the Force Wickets and threw them inside, or they were just half cards. So that could have been what happened here. It could be from one of those, but more than likely it's probably just overstock or something. Here was a 75 grade Han Solo Carbonite. That one sold for $491. Very good price there for an unpunched Han Solo in Carbonite on the Power of the Force card. I mean, it's not the highest grade in the world, but it is a 75. I mean, that's a excellent to near mint grade. 75, 80, 90 for the subscores for $491. Sub $500. That's tough to find even ungraded for that price. So that was a good deal there. Here was a Luke Stormtrooper ungraded, probably in about, I'm guessing 75 plus, maybe 80 grade. It's on the cusp, I think. It looks pretty clean just based on the limited photos we got there. But for $855, pretty good price there. We've seen some go recently that were unpunched examples in high grade that were well over $1,000. So that's not a terrible price at all. Speaking of high grade, here was an AFA 80 R2D2 pop-up lightsaber. That one sold for $1,006. It was somehow got the AFA 80. It looks like to me that it's got some sticker residue or litho tears in the upper right-hand corner. So little surprised that it got the 80 score for the card, but that's what they gave it. 80, 85, 80 were the sub-scores on that. So 1,006, not a bad deal at all. Just relative to, I think there is one that sold recently that was a Tri-Logo that sold for a big number. I forgot the exact number. I'm sure I'll cover it in a future Mint on Card video here soon, but it was like $1,700. So big number there. Droids figures. We've got an AFA 75 A-Wing pilot. That's one that seems to have come back down to earth a little bit. We've seen a number of examples lately that were 75-ish grade, 75 plus, that have sold, anywhere from this price to even slightly below that, after being in kind of the $1,200 to $1,400 range for a 75 quality Droids A-Wing pilot. Really quickly on the Ewoks, and then we'll get back to the Droids line. This was a 75 plus Wicket W. Warwick. This has obviously got the clear blister because it was made in Mexico. We've talked about this a lot lately. You can see there below the proof of purchase figure made in Mexico. The backs of these card backs are very matte finish. Same with some of the Return of the Jedi made in Mexico's. as well as the Droids made in Mexico, which we will also cover here in a second. But this 75 plus grade, interestingly, this one sold for $600. And then on to the Toy Scout, he also had a Wicket that was in really rough shape that still sold for $442.87. And you can see how rough this is. I mean, the hang tab is broken and things like that. But I feel like when it sells for this kind of price, you're basically getting it at the price of what a loose Ewoks Wicket goes for. You know, I see them very regularly sell on Facebook, even loose complete, even without the coin, go for this price. So this is kind of like, you know, someone basically bought this for the figure. That's basically bottom of the barrel prices. Versus, you know, this to me now, you know, after seeing that one, this one looks like a really great deal at $600. That's a bargain there. And then back to the Droids line. These were all from Toy Scout. These were all kind of beater, budget friendly, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, my Patreon supporter and good buddy, and you guys, I'm sure, know him better than you even know me, and that's usual Mike down in Australia. He's a big fan of the Droids line, and, you know, he's been kind of collecting them casually. And, you know, obviously you guys, for every one subscriber to my channel, he's got like 40, okay? So I'm pretty sure that anyone that watches my channel watches Usual Mike, but in the event you don't, make sure to go subscribe to Usual Mike down in Australia. But he loves the Droids line, so I wanted to show him these because these were all very budget-friendly. Jord Dusat, $119.35. We had Jan Tosh, again, somewhere around the hang tab. That one sold for $123. Not a bad deal at all there, just given that we saw recently an AFA 85 loose graded sell for slightly above this price, like $130 to $140. Kia Mall, again, on a rough card back, $142.85. Thal Jobin sold for $206. Uncle Gundy is another one. This one, actually, the card back was in pretty decent shape. It looked pretty good there. Probably 75 plus-ish. It had a little bit of damage in the lower left-hand corner, so that might hold it back. But that one, you know, is not a bad item, and that one sold around 200 something. It's, for some reason, the price isn't showing up on this one, but it was like 220-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. Kez Iban sold for $292.57. That card was in pretty excellent shape as well. That's a pretty pricey one because Kez Iban uses the same Imperial blaster that the Imperial Luke in Disguise figure uses, so that's what drives up the price for Kez Iban loose complete. Tigfrom, this is another one that is a made in Mexico. You can kind of see how, well, this one's got staining to the back of the card, but this is also a made in Mexico, as you can see right by the proof of purchase, and it's very matte finish also. That one sold for $570, and then they had Sice From. Even on a rough card, you're going to pay a lot of money. $10.26 was the final sales price there. You know, that's one where in really high grade condition, it can go for $2,000 pretty easily. And we just saw an AFA 80 that sold at Heritage for about $800. So $10.26 for a mint on card. That's a good price there. And then finally, we had another Ewoks from Toy Scout 2. This was the Logray. I believe this is also a made in Mexico. Yeah, you can see their figure made in Mexico. And it's got that matte finish to the card back. That one sold for $224.50. Logray and the Ewoks Wicket, you know, those two are very pricey. And obviously Sice and Tigfrom from the Droids line because they're all made in Mexico. I hope you enjoyed this look at recent sales for mint on card vintage Star Wars action figures. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.